Hello and welcome to this episode of Velocity Kinetics, and you join me not in a very good mood, to put it mildly. It is the 14th of April today, at the point of recording. What has got me in a not very good mood? Well, there is some personal stuff that I won't go into, because it's not the time or place. But this song does kind of sum it up. A little bit of the Sabbath. And this is one of these days where I really do feel like I need to do these Swacecasts, even if I film them and don't edit them and put them out. I just feel like I need to talk. Do I want to go to the left or do I want to go to the right today? I'll go to the left. I can't explain it. At the moment, I can't explain what my problem is. Actually, I've just realised I need to put my phone onto. I need to put my phone onto my Android Auto so I can actually see, because I'm going somewhere. I've not driven this way before. Well, the direction I'm going, I've come down this road, I've not gone up this road, shall we say. Well, what's got me annoyed? There's a lot of things. Work. Some of it's work related. We were dropped with not an audit, but someone had done an investigation into the team I work into without anyone's knowledge, and bearing in mind, so my company grades people. Your pay grade used to be A and upwards, basically. A was the lowest and then kept going, but they did away with the A grade a while ago. So now it's B all the way up to, I can't think what it is. Is it H now? I don't know. I think it's H before you get onto the board. And I'm a grade D in the organisation. The team is mostly grade E's. Granted, I say mostly, there's only 5 of us, including the main manager. The manager is an F, and then his manager is a G. Now, before you go on, well, why are you just proving that you can recite the alphabet? Which, yeah, all very funny, we can recite the alphabet. What I need to illustrate this is this investigation that's happened into my team, because we're allegedly the ones who've caused loads of incidents within the bank recently, which is bullshit, because they go, well, change has caused the incidents. Like, well, your change came through as poorly constructed. What am I meant to do? Am I going to sit there and turn around and review the change, and you've attached all your testing evidence, and I'm going to turn around and say, I don't believe your evidence? What the fuck am I going to do with that? And but this investigation that's happened, right, no one in the team knew about it. So so I didn't. I'm the only grade D. The E's didn't know about it. The F, so my manager, the team manager, didn't know it, and the G, the head of IT services, didn't know this was happening. The results have gone to I work for the CIO part of the business, so the results have gone to our CIO, who is casting quite a critical eye over a lot of elements of the business in line with going to an agile business model, which, I mean, if it works, it works. If it works better and we're more efficient, then fine. I'll reluctantly accept that, and I will work with it as best as I can. But so far, I am yet to see how it actually is any better. I'm yet to see how it's any better just now. And it feels like they're taking square aim at my team just to there's been a lot of restructure going on, which is code for sacking people, and we had hoped that we would be not immune to it, but we'd hoped that this would happen later than it is. We'd hoped to avoid attention on us for a good few more months. That has not been the case, unfortunately. So not a lot I can do about that. There's a couple of roads around here where the side roads just peer out of nowhere, and it's like, hang on, am I meant to be giving way? Or are you meant to be giving way to me? It's bizarre. That's what's at least got me annoyed, shall we say. That's why I'm annoyed at stuff at the moment, because it feels really underhanded. It feels like they're using us as a scapegoat, when actually, no, we don't let half the shit fly that people think fly, and if in turn we are viewed as blockers to change, then it's because, well, your change was put together badly. But anyway, that's why I'm not in such a good mood, along with a couple of other things. Which is weird to be talking work and banking before I've even talked about anything car related. So there's no update Swace related. We're at 30,500 miles. We're thundering down country roads at the moment. It's kind of good. What the hell are you doing? I don't quite know what you're doing, because I don't think you know what you're doing. Subaru just stopped in the middle of the road. But there is a little bit to talk about on the second car front. What do you mean? Have you bought something? No, not bought anything. At least just yet. But there've been some developments. I wouldn't say there's been decisions, because there hasn't been any decisions made about what we're going to do or not do. But we have at least sort of had a conversation about what we could potentially get, what we're looking for, what do we want, who, and how, who, what, where, and why. Effectively, what we're looking for. This is where I want to pull into. This is just so I just want to have my Android Auto available, because where I am. I'm not staying here, because as you can see, it's rutted and pitted to hell. This is not somewhere a car like mine should be. It's just for my map. That's all I want. I just want to have the option of. Probably going to kick off again with Black Sabbath in a minute. Away we go again. I don't know whether it's because my phone is old or what have you, but it's just... At the moment, it's really sluggish at responding to anything, which is beyond frustrating at the moment. Oh, bouncy. I don't know how well you can see through there. Nursery. That might not be bad, but nurseries and gardens, not babies. So Sarah's sort of setting out a budget of about 10 to 12,000. The nearer it is to 10, and the better the deal, then, you know, there have been a couple of cars we've seen where it's a case of, actually it's another 2,000, so it's more like 12 or 13, but it's got such little mileage. Is it worth spending that little bit extra? Yes, the car's 6 months older than whatever she's seen. Emergency works ahead. Okay. Road ahead closed. Oh, okay. Well, that was not what we were expecting. Okay, right. We'll quickly try and throw a UE without dragging. This is not turning out to be a very good start, is it? But there've been a few cars we've seen. Like there was a Volvo V40 that I think it was a 2018 plate, but it's spec list, and how low mileage it was. I think it was 35,000 versus a Ford Focus she'd seen that was a tiny bit newer. Ooh. What's that, a wagtail? Something with nesting material in its mouth. It was a Focus. I think we're comparing a 68 plate V40 versus a 69 plate Ford Focus. And the Volvo had a tiny bit more tech, but not anything. If you were to sit there and do what I've learned is called a Moscow analysis, people who are ITIL or Prince trained, well, Moscow is just getting started, as I understand it. But Moscow is must have, should have, could have, won't have, and it would be in the could have section of that decision model. If we were to get serious with it, so I'm in places I've never been before, so I'm surprised by it all. But the Focus had something like 70,000 miles on it. It was a diesel Focus versus a T2 petrol V40. There was something like, let's say, nearly 70,000-ish miles on the Focus. The Volvo had 40-something. So I'd rather, personally at least, I'd rather go for the Volvo. No, it's a bit newer, a bit further away from things like timing belts, clutches, gearbox, well, mandatory gearbox services and things like that. And Sarah agreed that would probably be the way we would rather. That would be the way she'd also rather go. The problem is, it's sort of, well, what do we go for? Because she likes the Focus she's learning in, but she also wants something SUV-ish. So there've been SX4 S-Crosses I've looked at, Vitara all grips because she wants an all grip. I've looked at Subarus. I've looked at whilst I've looked at Audis and BMWs, etc. The problem is, if you get them that cheap, then they are potentially going to be riddled with problems, which is not a given. You might buy one and not have a single problem, but got to be careful. The older you go, are you buying a money pit? Especially if you want something that's going to last a little while. It has then also led me to sort of look around other places and say, well, what could I buy on the sort of budget I'd be looking at? I've seen this morning I could buy a 508 plug-in hybrid saloon for 23. It's got 1,800 miles on the clock and it's a year old. You were not waiting for anyone, were you, mate? Jesus Christ. Actually, if you can see where I am, there's a ditch this side, which you won't be able to see. There's a ditch this side, or a dyke, as we tend to call it, and I appreciate a dyke is not the most friendly of LGBTQ terms, shall we say. But when I'm referring to dyke, I'm not referring to anything like that. I'm referring to a ditch. It's just habit. It's what it's called. It's what it's always been called. And if you've lived in Lincolnshire as well, Norfolk, Lincolnshire, Suffolk, it's a dyke. That's just what it is. Well, we'll move on from that particular bit of car talk. Oh, that's a freshly smushed hedgehog. Oh, poor thing. Adorable little animals too. But but anyway, I'll finish the car thing off so I can move off. It's basically opened up my eyes to a lot of potential options, and perhaps it's wrong to say if I could get Sarah to agree, because it'll be more than likely her money buying it, or at least her money paying for it, because it'll probably have to be on finance. But I would say there've been a couple of really good priced 508s and a couple of really good priced S60s that I've seen. But like, perhaps that might be worth the look, because then it doesn't really matter what car does what. They're both big, comfortable, practical vehicles. I actually don't know where the hell I am at the moment. I feel like I'm in the back end of somewhere near Hesse and Baden. Ah, I see. Well, you are a rather nice little looking village. But yeah, to open my eyes, perhaps we might be able to do something better than a Focus. But we'll see. She still needs to pass her test, which I'm hoping she passes first time. Not because I've had enough of driving and things, but she wants to drive. And I can't, and I don't mean this to sound like but I always wanted to do driving. But no. She wants to drive. She is sick of being a passenger, or at least having to be the passenger. And I commend that immensely. It's why I love the woman. One amongst many other reasons, but one of many reasons why I love the woman. But moving on, to drive around these country roads, it's brought me on to things I've touched on before now. I think it's Swacecast 2, I've talked about people's attention spans when it comes to driving, and I know people might say, yeah, but you're talking and driving at the same time. But I'm sort of just talking into nothingness. Have you never talked to yourself? You know, I mean, I am just glorified talking to myself at the moment. Sometimes, you know, talking to yourself, sometimes you get the best answer. But I touched on how things like TikTok and Facebook Reels, and I think it's called, having looked at it since then, I believe it is Instagram Reels as well, that are sort of destroying attention span, and have been constantly connected to everything. Stop. Okay, it's a stop sign about 100. We're in about 140 yards. Aha. I see. Right, I don't know where I am still, but interesting. I feel like I've been around here. It's a lovely village green. I know people might say, what the hell? Tostock. Okay, we'll go to Tostock. But talking about how people's attention spans are sort of rotted to pieces and things, I've noticed when I've been looking, sometimes just generally driving around because I sort of want to explore the area. I've lived in Suffolk on and off for years, and Norfolk, but I don't actually know at times where many places are. For instance, living in Thetford, I know my way to Bury St Edmunds, I know my way to Brandon. That's about all I ever knew. Didn't know about many places in between, apart from places like going to Risby to see my granddad when he was alive, where I did live. Originally, it's where the cottage and that arseholdy landlord I used to have are. But if you see what I mean, it's more of a look. I'd like to know my way around and nice places to go for a walk, etc. Okay, so what is the A14? Is that the A14? That is the A14. Okay. So where is this gonna? I've just gone over the A14, but not actually anywhere near it yet. Okay, no, you're just coming off. Okay. But I've noticed quite a lot drive around the small country roads. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know how to drive on these small country roads, and a lot of people who visit the areas and things. Now, don't get me wrong. Ooh, this looks like a. It's the potholes. It's nothing more. Nothing more than that. It's just the flipping potholes. Good Lord! If I come into that at speed, that'd have been my bumper, and probably my wheel mount. But I've noticed around a lot of these, and around a lot of places. A bit of engine brake into here. People don't know how to drive on these country roads. They'll come in too hot. They don't place their cars very well. Speaking of not placing cars very well, I'm not currently placed very well at all. But people don't place their cars very well. They carry speed that they're not talented enough to carry through. I'm going to be blunt and call it that. They haven't got the talent. They haven't got the talent to carry the speed. Oh, car. They haven't got the talent to carry the speed. Some of them drive around some of the big SUVs, not looking to have a dig at SUVs any more than. And then Elmswell's where my brother lives. Sorry, I've just seen the sign for Elmswell, so I've just come a really back way round to Elmswell. Or nearly there. Ooh, nice bungalows. My dad keeps going on about moving into a bungalow, and it's like, yeah, you can if you can afford one, but you'll be in the arse end of, as lovely as this place is, you will be in the arse end of nowhere. It's 20 mile an hour speed, that Mr. BMW behind me. Don't worry, as soon as I can put the hammer down and get going, I will be getting going. Because 20 feels... Ooh, it's a lovely little church. I hate religion, but I can't deny some of the buildings are, architecturally speaking, fantastic. This is so infuriating, being signposted as a... What are they doing? That means it needs to be a 20. That is my question. That BMW really is sizing me up for an overtake. But it is signposted as 20. Even though it does feel like it could and should be a lot faster down here. Even if it is only a 40. But the BMW behind me, for example, they're looking for a place to try and score an overtake. And whilst I don't, as you can hear me wittering on, I can see that it should be faster than it is. But I can't work out how or where or why they're doing what they're putting it at the speed they're putting it at. Although I'm guessing there's been too many accidents, near misses, and so on. And just general bits of flooding. I think I've just come out a side road, and I'm nearly at my brother's, I think. But a lot of people don't, like I say, don't pay attention. They're not watching their six or whatever description you would like to apply to it. They're not using their noggin. They're just bluntly or blindly foot in, and it's because it's meant to be this speed. That is what we shall do, sort of a scenario. Now I don't disagree that, especially on that last stretch before the 60 came, and then we got to a give way, so I couldn't then put the hammer down. But I don't disagree that there are roads in rural areas that are restricted to 30 and less, which should be a lot faster. I couldn't tell you why they're restricted. I'm guessing it's to do with people not having the talent to be able to drive around there, or the fact that there's too many farm vehicles coming out. Basically, there's something, too many accidents even, that's caused it. The other thing that really bugs me is people seemingly knowing how to use passing spaces, or places, should I say. Now, that's not perhaps too much of a slip of the tongue saying passing spaces, because with a passing space, a lot of people tend to use them as parking spaces. Now, don't get me wrong, I have often wondered when I've seen those passing spaces and I've seen a sign that says footpath, public footpath. It's sort of one of those things like, oh, I wonder what's down there, and I would be really tempted to just pull over and go for a walk down there, see what is down there. But that doesn't always happen. But people park in them, block them, so then it means that depending on how well spaced out the passing spaces are, as in if they're massively far apart, then someone's going, I mean miles as in they're just going quite a long distance, not literally miles between. Figuratively, I'm not talking literal miles. So then people have got a long time before they can turn around, basically, or at least give way to do the correct give way. I'm looking for somewhere to actually turn around. Let's see if my brother's in. See if he's up and about. Because it is, people might say, what do you mean? What do you mean if he's up and about? It is 9:30 on a Sunday morning, and he is entitled to a lie-in, although I think he's got some form of insomnia at the moment. Or he just goes to bed really early and in turn then is just awake really early. So this is what I'm doing here is not passing spaces either. This is just standard give way on a small, would I class Elmswood as a village or a town? That's a good question. I don't know. It's a very big village or a really, really small town. But even in doing this passing between parked cars, people don't follow the right process. People barrel in and so on. Like this Land Rover that's about to come past on my right in just a second. He committed very early, or she committed very early, but I've come to the stop, so I've got to give way to this Honda that's now coming my way. The only thing I can really recommend people do to try and get better at country driving is to go do it. Oh, shit, I missed a turning. Oh well. If he's out there, he might be out having a walk. We might see him, we might not. It baffles me. Is probably the best way to put it. It absolutely baffles me at times how people don't know how to do it. And it's one of these things. It's a case of just because it's a 60 doesn't mean that you have to go. You have to be full on balls out, fully committed, on the throttle. This road I might be able to do a flipper U-E in. Is that it? No, that's a passing spot. Do a quick in here. It's a case of just hold on, back off a little bit, back out. You don't need to be, like I say, don't need to be fully committed on the throttle. Just a bit slower. You've got to be. You almost need to drive. You understand when you drive like that. You sort of understand why left foot braking exists, because sometimes you haven't got that split second to go from brake to gas to brake. Sometimes you've got to go straight on to the brake whilst you're still on the throttle. And this is not for any sort of advanced cornering or to be like a racing driver or anything like that. It's just, well, it just is. It's just one of those things that sometimes has to, unfortunately, happen. Right, is that car coming towards me? Yes, he is. Because they're already on the move, I might as well give way to them. As is that Suzuki now coming down. Absolutely committed. That Suzuki that passed, that Duke that passed, he's overtaken myself and a Mitsubishi L200 that was sat waiting to let that Suzuki through. It was just one of those things that just wait 30 seconds and then everyone gets going, because I could see there was nothing behind the Suzuki. Just let it happen. Have a bit of fucking patience is probably the best way to put it. Actually, one of my old colleagues lives in Elmsworth. All the times I've been, I've never seen her, or her sons, or her husband, but they used to come into our work quite often, which, there we are. Bumpy. It's a bit bumpy. But country driving's been a bit of a bother for me, and it's what I find hardest is when it's the single track stuff that gets tiring. Jesus Christ, that cone's even further in that pothole. The single track stuff just does get quite tiring. Now, single track is okay, but you really can't, even if measuring potholes. Oh dear. Even if you've got the most responsive throttle, the most responsive brakes, the quickest changing gearbox on the planet, you cannot anticipate what is coming round the corner next on a single track road. And I've had it before where I've had to reverse 400-500 meters. The other person flatly refused to do so, even though they had the bloody the passing spot nearer them than I did. And what was horrible about that is we nearly front-ended them, but I was taking the cats to the catter. He was Sarah, so it wouldn't have just been me and Sarah. It would have been our two little kitties who would have been injured. The George and the Ismeister would have been hurt, which would have been terrible, or at least they would have been very shaken up and feeling terrible. I think we're going to sort of double back to the point from the second Swacecast video, where I think the issue is people do just have no patience anymore. And I think British society, I can't speak for anywhere else, hence why I say British, because I think even the Scotch, the Welsh and the Irish are far better at everything else than the bloody English are. But in English society, I think COVID has sped up the inevitable. We were becoming boorish, we were becoming ruder, we were becoming horrible. We're basically, every single stereotype that English people are portrayed as just came out all at once, and just came out far worse than anyone had ever envisioned. I don't know whether we would still be quite as bad if COVID and lockdowns hadn't happened, but in this situation, it's terrible. People have got no patience, and my usual go-to example for this: when you're trying to park, people just won't let you park. They try and nip around you when you're going in forwards, whether you're going in backwards. People try and nip around you when there isn't space for them to do so. It becomes a massive case of like, just hang on a fucking minute, mate. Just whoa, wait a minute, dude. It's not a competition. Apart from if it's a competition to see who ends up dead the quickest. Really does baffle my mind. I'm just saying the camera's still recording. Yes, it is. Because I did that video where I finished off with my other camera. I had to redo with my other camera where this hadn't been recording for 40 plus minutes, but at least this time I remembered to charge the battery before coming out. I'm going to sound just as bad as everyone else here, where we haven't got any patience, we haven't got this, we haven't got that, we haven't. There we are. On to something else, I think. We'll talk about something else. I didn't really have that much planned to talk about in this one. I did, and then I was about to start talking, and I realised, like, oh, I've covered that quite a few times already. What are you doing, Mr. Volvo? Are you coming by? What are you doing? Put your feckin' foot down, or let me out, whatever you're doing. I don't think you quite know what you're doing either. That's the underlying problem. Talk about something Formula 1 related. Obviously I'm supporting Alpine today. What a shocker they are having at the moment. Absolute shocker and a half. Which is annoying, because Alpine were always a good team, well, even back when they were, but whilst Renault were rebuilding after the Lotus fudge up. For a long time, Lotus / Renault / whatever they want to call themselves now but were always good outsiders for good point. Well, they were always a sure thing for good points, and always not a silly suggestion for a podium. Maybe unlikely, but not silly. It's not like saying, oh, Albon will get a podium, which at the moment that is kind of a silly suggestion. Although I really do hope that does happen for the man, because what a way to cement his future in a team. I feel sorry for Gasly and Ocon. I rate Gasly myself. I think he's very underrated as a driver. I think he was treated very badly by Red Bull. He basically was at Red Bull at the worst possible time you could think of. Being against Max Verstappen whilst Max was on basically cementing his inevitability. and part of the revolving door of cast. Now that said, some people might say, well, Gasly couldn't drive a good car, sort of thing. No, some drivers just can't drive a good car. Some drivers do immensely well in bad machinery. Look at how Alonso cemented his legendary status with what he did at McLaren in the Honda, which was terrible. Look at what he did in the Alpine. Look at what he's done in the Aston Martin. Now, the Aston Martin's not been as bad of a car, but the Aston Martin is not exactly a worldie. Although, to be fair, I think it would be up there if the Red Bull didn't exist, or the Red Bull was paired back to be with everyone else. Well, paired back, I don't wish to see a team paired back, because if they've developed right and got everything right, then that's not fair. But there we are. But Gasly, I think I always thought he was a good driver, especially after his Monza win. I think Williams are up a creek at the moment. I appreciate what they've had to do over winter, and they might be feeling the pain for it this year. But if it means they can get updates out sooner, if it means that they can, if it means they can produce things faster, if it means they can get the cars built better, if it frees up resource, they can be better directed, then it's worth every scrap and ounce of pain that they're experiencing at the moment. Is it what they really want to feel? No, it's not. No one wants to be going through what Williams are going through, especially so publicly. I think there is something inherently wrong in that Williams, because of the number of scraps and spins and things the team have been in. Now people can easily go, well, that was Logan, he's not a very good driver, Alex was just overcommitted and things, but that the car must have been responding to them initially positively for them to feel like they could be pushing in the manner that they were. It was not. It was not like they were driving a dustbin that stayed a dustbin, and actually they weren't committed to the corner because that's as fast as they could be committed. They were committed to the corner because they felt like they could. I do think Logan's days at the team are numbered. I don't think he's going to be there much longer. There are rumours that Liam Lawson might go there. There is talk about Carlos Sainz finding his way there. Now that's quite an outside chance, in my opinion, that Carlos will be there. But if it's Carlos and Albon pulling Williams forward and making the team better, and helping drive updates and general just doing better in that team, then you know what? Bring it on. I would actually love to see. I would love to see Williams not have a rookie in now. I want to see two seasoned drivers doing what they can to get the team back to where everyone associates Williams with. I actually think, I know there's a lot of people like to hate on Bottas for reasons that I've never really understood, because I've always liked Valtteri. But I can't deny that in his time at Sauber he does seem to have taken his foot off the gas. But at the same time, you know, the man is entitled to a break. The man went up against Lewis Hamilton for multiple seasons and finished second to him multiple times. I don't know why I did that. Didn't need to go that far back. I like using the engine brake on this to help bring the car to a stop, but sometimes it's not. I will say that is not as nice as what traditional manual does feel like on telling it to come to a stop. Are we going to be? If we time ourselves right, we can be the next one in the queue. Time for the car wash. I'd like to see Valtteri and Albon at Williams, to be honest. Valtteri's been there before, he knows how the team works and operates, he's got experience at Mercedes that he could bring back. We're going to be here a while, but the car needs cleaning. He's got experience that he can bring back to the team. He's a multiple race winner, championship runner-up. It's just what Williams needs. To be honest, if Hamilton had felt like if he felt like his last challenge left was to bring a team back to good and wanted a bigger challenge than Ferrari, I'd have liked to have seen him at Williams, personally. Whether it would have ever happened is another question altogether. Can't wait to see Hamilton start at Ferrari, though. That'd be rather immense. Then there's the big equation as to what's going to happen to Carlos. Sainz doesn't get half the accolades he should. I'm sure when he got promoted to podium when he was at McLaren, when it was Brazil, I'm trying to think who got disqualified for him to get that last place, or got issued a 5-second penalty or something like that. But I'm sure he broke McLaren's podium duck for quite a lot. For it was a multiple season long thing. As in, I think the last time they sat on the podium was McLaren Mercedes. So they went through all that faff on with Honda, then at least one season with Renault, before it finally came good. Danny Rick is looking in a spot of bother. I really like Danny. He seems really genuine. He seems down to earth. He does seem the sort of guy like you would just want to talk to, if he was obviously in the mood to do so. Should he have left Red Bull initially? Because obviously he went through the Renault and McLaren malaise. I don't know. I think, seeing how good the Alpine became, I think he would have been better off staying where he did. He would have been better off staying at what became Alpine when he was Renault. Well, that obviously used to be Renault, because Alpine also won a race. So it's not Ricciardo won a race at McLaren, but that said, it's a catch-22, because Ocon won a race for Alpine, which is the first time that team had won a race for, since they were Lotus? I want to say since they were Lotus. Since Kimi Raikkonen, E22, E23, I believe. But then you also got Ricciardo breaking McLaren's winless streak. So when Danny Rick won in the McLaren at Monza, that was the first time McLaren had won a race since Brazil 2012, which was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Some people say it should have been Lando who won, what have you, and whatever team orders were in play in the background, if there were any team orders in play, that's not our concern. Because ultimately, if you had a Formula 1 team and you wanted to win, you are going to tell the drivers to do what you need them to do to bring both cars home. You're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, just play it safe. Just do what you can." Or if they're clearly going to bang wheels, you don't sit there and go, let it happen, let it out, go on. You're racing drivers. You're racing drivers. Unless you're so far ahead in the championship, you can afford to have a DNF when you're running 1-2. Most people will say, right, hold station. Or if in holding station the car ahead develops a fault, then you'll either be told to tow the other car around, or it's the case of you're going to have to act rear gunner. It's even more imperative that you don't overtake. But anyway, Danny Rick appears to be in a spot of bother. Whether he'll make it to the end of the season is another thing altogether, and it'll be... I've had enough of Red Bull chewing people up and spitting them out. I really wish there was some sort of rule against it. Because if you think about all the drivers they spat out Kvyat, they spat out Albon, they spat out Gasly, they might be spitting out Danny Rick, they kind of they brought him in, but they're going to inevitably spit out Yuki Tsunoda. They've talked that they might be spitting out Perez. It's like that team, regardless of what the hell has happened in the background with Christian showing his dick Horner, or whether it's hell on earth Marco, there is something incredibly toxic about the Red Bull environment. Incredibly toxic. And before people say, why don't you wash your car at home yourself, Chris, because we've seen you do it. Yep, I would happily wash the car at home. I can't get to where it is in the shed. I need to tidy my shed out, because when we moved in, a lot of stuff just went in there, and then it's funny, we moved house. I finished work at lunchtime on the Friday to get the keys, and on the Monday morning I was back at work, and I haven't really had the time to do it. And when I have had the time, there is some stuff in there, like there's a big wardrobe that Sarah's uncle gave us. It's been stood in a shed both in Church Cottages and where we are now. But when it was stood in Church Cottages, it was in a shed that was not, well, it was more of a shack, to be honest, but it's been exposed to the elements more than it should be. Not as in it's gotten, well, that I can see at least, it's not gotten wet. It's been exposed to extremes of hot and cold, which is not what it was ever meant to experience. Do we just get rid of it? Do we say to someone, well, if you can recycle the wood, then you can make something else out of it? And she won't commit to a decision on it, which is beyond infuriating. I don't care what we're doing, I just need to know what we're doing. And the other thing is, Sarah wants to be involved in sorting the shed out, which I don't disagree because it is our house, our shed. But at the moment, the amount of her work is making her work weekends. It's very much what's the point? I really hate how people pull up behind people these days. They come so fast, they seem to hit the brakes at last possible second. They don't seem to leave the required gap to the car in front. Better get some method paint out. This is where the ASMR bit of the video happens. What a stupid trend that is. So yeah, the world of F1's getting quite hot and heated. The other thing that's coming up is a lot of people are already writing off the 2026 rules, and the 2026 rules haven't even been set, which is exceptionally damning if that is the case. How do you fix F1? We've covered this many a time on this channel. Currently, the simple answer is this: the cars need to get lighter. You've got to restrict the aerodynamics on them. Whether people are obsessed with overtakes, it's more a case of, look, the problem is the cars have gotten heavier. They've been allowed to gain more and more downforce, so they are shortly going to be nearly as quick as the last generation of car. If they're not already quicker, we're going to see lap records smashed and shattered quite soon. The engine rules are also sort of really up in the air at the moment, which they're not really nailing down, which is a bother. It's a bother if they're not going to nail down the aero rules anytime soon. The simple answer is this: they need to get rid of the flick-ups and the flaps. They need, ground effect might be more beneficial, easier way to create downforce and lose less downforce for the car following. But we've got to stop all these little turning vanes. You need to restrict the front wing, I'd say 3 elements, not 5. So restricted to 3 elements. No angling out of the aero. Do what you want with the cannons, the side pods, up wash, down wash, out, in wash. Whatever direction you want to wash, you name it. Do what you think is best. It's sort of a you do you, but they've got to stop. I think the catch-22 F1 finds itself in is the rules need to be more prescriptive. Formula 1 has never been about prescription. If you think about it, we go back years and years when we're talking decades, but at one point we had inline engines, V engines, H engines. At one point we even had a W engine trying to compete. Turbos, superchargers, small displacement, big displacement. F1 is about innovation. So of course they can't prescribe the rules too much, because once they do that, that's it. It's game over. Game over for the sport in many ways. And I know some people say, well, it's not really a sport, though, is it? Do you know what? Even though I've driven around a bit, I have had a little bit of a heavy foot at the appropriate place, I do feel a bit better for a moan and a talk. Still problems going on, but well, on the work front from the very start of this video, the easy solution: I do the analysis myself. I find the figures. I prove their numbers wrong. The problem is having the time to do that. Just trying to think F1, and it's just not trying to think about what F1 needs to do to get better, and it's just. Do you know what I've also noticed? I noticed it years ago, but I'd hoped it was just a fad or a thing. Do you know, F1 fans on social media are some of the most toxic people on the planet, it seems. You're not allowed. Years ago, I'm trying to think whether it was my own blog piece or whether it was something whilst I was still doing sport right now. Someone had absolutely slated an article I'd written, and you know, it's all one of those things like, well, that hurts my feelings, sort of. On the one hand, it's like, yeah, well, that's my feelings well and truly hurt. At the same time, it doesn't. At the same time, there's not an awful lot really you can do about that. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Have they not hit start? I can certainly give it a go. Oi. What's the numbers? Yeah. Yeah. think that's worked now. Will help a fellow person out. Oh, what a stupid system. Oh, don't tell me. It's the card reader's just come up with a fucking error message. Cash! 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 Fuck off with your cash. Yeah, I don't trust the banks. You don't trust investment bankers. People in the high street banks have got nothing to do with half the fucking problems that you're associating them as causing. Hopefully by the time I get back, the second episode of Swacecast is uploaded. That'll give you some indication as to when some talk of what's going on. That wasn't even a sentence. With the channel at the moment, I do have quite a bit of content. Well, I did have quite a bit of content sort of recorded, but I've sort of used it all. Now I've got maybe 1-2 videos in the bag ready to upload, and not that I'm running out of steam or anything to do it or anything like that, because that's not true at all. But I do feel as I think I've alluded to it in the video where I've ranted about YouTube. At times, the motivation to keep doing these when there's no YouTube money coming back my way is at times problematic or a bother. But there's not a lot. But at the same time, I appreciate YouTube has to work on a basis of. The problem is YouTube's so heavily driven by algorithms, and it's so heavily driven by the need to keep consuming, that it just that only certain videos and certain types are ever going to get to the top, and then in turn people are only ever going to make the videos that get popular. Like for a little while, for reasons I don't understand, because I don't know where it originated from, there was this video where I'm sure it originates from TikTok, where there's a line of 4 or 5 people jumping, and then as each next bit of the song comes on, I think it might be something ska that starts playing, but as each next bit of the song starts and they do a different dance move. But my YouTube shorts, for some reason at some point, yeah, of course one or two will always sneak in, because if it's popular they'll just go, hey, this video's got like however many million views, do you want to be one of them? But then suddenly that was all my feed was. There was no escape from that song, no escape from that video format. Also, what I did see the other day on YouTube, which was really good. I might have in the YouTube video slagged off, talked badly about Alex Kirsten, also Alex quite a bit, which was not my intent to do that, but because he's the person I watch a lot of. I'm really glad to see that Jack and Ethan have landed in the Auto Alex family. I thought the chemistry of Alex, Jack, and Ethan on Car Throttle was really good. It was only matched by Edwin, Jack, and Ethan. I thought the three of them were a really good combination, very Top Gear-esque, and personally, don't know how bad this is going to affect the sound. It's the blow dryer of the car wash. But I thought they were a really good group. Clearly passionate about cars, very clever about how to fix them, very good videos about owning and living with amateurs doing car work. I thought it was really good, and that's also the sort of stuff that I would aspire to have and do, but it's just just in the wrong place at the wrong time with it, really, aren't we? Where I am. I don't know. Sorry, also, it sounds silly and sounds like something a small child would say, so I keep looking to make sure that the camera's recording. Unfortunately, the camera died just as we're getting the car wash. Oh well. So I appreciate you being with me on this ramble. Quite loud, I just want to finish the video. Thanks for listening. It's cathartic and it helps. We'll see you next time. Drive safe. Buy me a coffee /customer services expert, paypal.me /velocity kinetics. Drive safe, look after yourselves.